I am here for about right now. You created a comic. Yes. Would you like to talk about it for a little bit? Tell us what it's about. So I am a creator of many comics. I tell lots of stories. So the flagship series I made, the first comic that I wrote was a fantasy adventure series called The Uncommons. But recently the newer title that I'm working on is called Weirdo. It's a middle grade graphic novel that I describe as the nerdy kid's instruction manual for self-love and self-confidence. So it's a graphic novel memoir that explores my perspectives, overcoming in depression and anxiety, and learning how to love who I am at a time when it was really hard for me to do that. At a time when I really wanted to be normal, when all I wanted was to be the normal kid and I didn't want to be weird at all. There were some things that I wish I knew. And Weirdo is kind of my way of taking those things that I wish I knew at that time and making sure that those skills and that information are there for the new generation of weird kids.
Can you tell us about Weird Enough Productions, like how it started and...
So Weird Enough Productions is the Tony Weaver equivalent of Odd Future. That's how I describe it. So you think about how Tyler the Creator kind of founded Odd Future out of this deep desire to tell stories, a desire to own those stories, and a desire to create an institution that would let those stories sustainably live, right? So for me, Weird Enough is my execution on that dream. I think that diverse stories have the ability to change the world. So Weird Enough is a place where we create original diverse stories, right now primarily in the form of comic books, and we partner them with really high impact educational and community programs and initiatives. Stories save my life, so Weird Enough is my way of creating stories as a way to save other people. So we produce our own content and we take that content and connect it to really high impact curricula, community programming, workshops, and things of that nature. We've impacted over 2 million young people across the U.S. in the last 2 years. And being CEO of Weird Enough is the only job I've ever had. So I think it's going okay.
Carnell from Carnell Hollow Pictures. So I'm fairly new to your content, and I've seen here and there. So I'm feeling your style, and you're very knowledgeable. So I have to ask, what is your educational background?
So I went to Elon University in North Carolina, and I got 2 degrees. One is a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Acting, and one is a Bachelor's of the Arts in Strategic Communications. Because my idea, before I started Weird Enough, when I was in high school, I really wanted to be an actor. I participated in the August Wilson monologue competition. And August Wilson is a playwright. His whole story of embracing his culture and the unique stories of his people as a way to make himself competitive in the creative space is really engaging to me. So I wanted to be an actor. And I got accepted into the program. Elon accepts 16 acting majors a year, so I get into the program and I tell my mom, I'm going to be an actor. Michael B. Jordan, better watch out, because as soon as I graduate, your career is over, bud. It's all me. It's me. It's going to be Tony Weaver Jr.'s industry. And my mom said, that's cute. That's real nice. It's real cute. What's your second major? I said, second major. She said, well, I'm not paying all that money for an acting degree. You can go do that, but you're going to have to double major in something else or minor in theater. At the time, I was really upset. I was like, Mom, don't you believe in me? And my mom's like, I do believe in you. I believe in you so much that I believe you can go get 2 degrees instead of 1. That's how much I believe in you, son. At the time, I was really frustrated about it, but strategic communications kind of let me develop an understanding of how the entertainment industry works and how the media industry works, and really, especially around the time that Weird Enough was started, I was spending more time in the School of Communications than I was in the theater. So I think acting kind of gives me this strong foundation in the arts as a storyteller and a creative, but the strategic communications degree that I have helps me understand how the ecosystem of entertainment works. And I think a deep understanding of both has been what's contributed to my success.
Hold on. So on your social media, you talk about blurs playing spades
Yes.
in the nerd space a lot. Can you kind of describe how you feel about that? Because you kind of have gone off on people who force other black people to play spades.
Let me tell you something. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, okay? I grew up here, very large family, lots of family outings. I still don't know how to play spades, okay? I don't know how to play spades, but why would I want to learn how to play spades? To me, spades is the black community not admitting that they want to be nerds. Because if you think about it, spades is a very reactive game, right? There are a lot of rules that you got to learn. There are unique rule sets. There are different ways that people play. Some people play aggro. Some people kind of sit back and let the game develop before they jump in. It's all just Magic the Gathering. It's just Magic the Gathering. Just spades is black people's version of the cube format in Magic the Gathering. That's it. That's all it is. So just play Magic. Just play Magic the Gathering. It's fine.
You're right, though. You're so right.
It's it. In Magic the Gathering in the cube format, you have a preset list of cards that you just keep in the box. Everybody shows up, you shuffle them up, you deal them out, and you play with the cards you get, and you have a very specific goal that you're trying to accomplish. It's spades. It's just the cube format in Magic the Gathering. But you know, Grandma doesn't want to admit that she wants to run a mono red Goblins deck. Grandma, just play Magic the Gathering. I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill. You had something.
All right. Besides Magic the Gathering, what is your fandom? Like, what would you, like you said, stay on the hill for?
So when I think about my fandom, so it's interesting. I don't have a blind allegiance to any particular IP. So there are stories that I like I really like Eureka 7, it's produced by Studio Bones. Mega Man Battle Network, that specific iteration of Mega Man is like really cool to me. But I think the thing that gets me fired up is anytime somebody's telling a story. If you're making something, I'm trying to see what you're cooking, dog. Like I get so many emails from kids that are like, hey, I'm writing this thing, hey, I'm making this thing. I get DMs from people like, hey, I'm working on this story. I'm like, tell me more, dog. Because I think we live in a world that incentivizes consumption. And people find their identity in their consumption. So when people get really deep into fandom, they're like, well, this fandom is me because I have over 500 Funko Pop figures, and I cosplay as this, and I bought this, and I bought this, and I bought this. And I'm like, that's a trap. That's a trap. I mean, like, as someone with a collection of hundreds of Funko Pop figures, it's like, hey man, collect what you want to collect. But I think getting caught up in consumption is the trap. What's exciting is when a show that you watch, or something that you see, a piece of art that somebody else made, lights a fire in you that's so big you can't stop yourself. You pick up that pen and start writing. You pick up that camera and start shooting. You pick up that paintbrush and start painting something. To me, anytime that spark clicks, where it's like the Winter Soldier when somebody says the activation phrase, like you watch that thing and suddenly you're like, I must make, I must create. That's what I'm a fan of. Even if I don't like what you're making, even if I'm like, this isn't my genre, this isn't really for me, the creative spirit when somebody decides that they're going to step through, they're going to step beyond their doubts and step beyond their insecurities and say, I'm going to bring something new into this world, that's what gets me going. And every time I write, especially times when I don't want to, where I'm like, my life would be a lot easier if I wasn't writing, if I didn't care about my work as much. Those are the things that that's what I remember. That's what gets me fired up.
On piggybacking off of that though, so for as new content creators, what would you say for as not just to motivate, inspire, but knowing the fundamentals for as they craft their style?
Yeah. So when I think about content, the first thing that I think about is money, which is wild. Because some people are like, I don't do it for the money. It's like, I never said you do it for the money. I just said you need money to do it though, right? You need money to live, to be alive, right? So for me, I care about my art. People are like, I don't care about the money, I care about the art. And I'm like, yeah, well, you want access to the time, resources, and talent to make that art the best thing that it could be, right? Yeah? Guess what you need for that? Money. So if you care about the art, you need to start caring about money. Is what you need to do. So anytime anybody wants to make anything, if they want to do anything, like we want to do something for a hobby, sometimes people feel this pressure to make their hobbies into side hustles. I don't feel like that's particularly productive. But anytime someone wants to do something, they say, full time I want to do this. This is my job. This is what I want to spend all my time doing. Cool. How are we monetizing? Before we think about what we want to make, before we think about our perspective, before we think about anything that we're going to do, how are we monetizing? And very often that's not an answer that you have to come up with yourself. You can look at people in the space, the people that are already doing it professionally, and figure out where does that check come from. Because understanding how you monetize gives you the power to monetize in your own way. Whereas if you don't think about it at all, you're just throwing things into the void, hoping that at some point money comes back, or eventually you're going to have to stop. And for me, I see people make content that I don't respect get paid way more than they should. So anytime somebody's making something where their heart is in it, I'm like, find the check, because the check is out there for you, and if you don't get it, some random person making reaction content is going to get it. We don't want that, do we? Like I just see this.
Yeah. So you have Weirdo coming out soon, but can you talk about your other project coming out, The Dream Frontiers,
Oh.
and how that came to be?
Oh, you've been paying attention. So the Dream Frontier is, my publisher actually got on me about this. I'm not allowed to talk about much. I can't talk about the plot, but I can tell you why it came to be. I can give you that. So the Dream Frontier is a Afrofuturistic isekai. Is the way that I think about the Dream Frontier. So it's being published by Macmillan Publishers. It's a pretty big deal because number one, they're the third largest publisher in the world. I'm the first black male that's writing a graphic novel for them in the last 30 years. So publishing, there aren't a lot of black people in publishing, there aren't a lot of black males in publishing. And Macmillan, this organization, that really champions diversity in a lot of ways. Like they have black authors. For graphic novels, they don't particularly pop up as much. So I'm showing up with something to say, right? The Dream Frontier to me is kind of my take on the isekai genre. Because when I look at isekais, that time I got reincarnated as insert thing here. I got reincarnated as a slime. I got reincarnated as a vending machine. I got reincarnated as a woman. I got reincarnated as a sword. I think there's a crucial perspective that's kind of missing. So I brought this idea to Macmillan, and Macmillan is actually really interested in it. They're investing in it in the point where, for most graphic novels that publishers work on, you either have an artist that's writing and drawing, or you get one writer and one artist. And Macmillan is actually letting me build a studio of the artists that I want, the letters that I want, the colors that I want, all within the publisher. So I'm basically getting my own studio inside of the imprint in order to make this thing. But when the Dream Frontier, I gotta know how to get more concise with my answers, right? But the Dream Frontier is about what it means to be a nerd. And I won't mention any titles by name because I feel like everybody kind of goes for their own thing. But there are a lot of things that I've read that to me completely misunderstand the amazing thing about being nerdy and about being creative. So there's a book that I read where there's a kid, he's a nerd, he's like, I'm a real fan, I'm a true fan. And every time in the book when the time comes for him to demonstrate why he's the true fan, it's always something trite and like slightly discriminatory. Like, I went to the arcade machine and I know the Konami code by heart because I'm a real fan. And since I know the Konami code, I put in the Konami code and I knew the exact sequence because I memorized the strategy guide in order to beat level 10. And it's like all those other fake nerds, they didn't know that. They don't have the Konami code memorized like I have the Konami code memorized. And to me, I'm like, that's not what it means to be a nerd. To me, a nerd is a person where if I look at you and I say, hey, there's a dragon outside, you don't look at me and go, that's dumb, that's stupid, dragons aren't real. You go, where he at though? What color is it? Does it breathe fire? Does it have scales? How big are the wings? Can we go look right now? To me, being a nerd is embracing this natural curiosity about the world that can't be seen. And I think a lot of isekai gets caught up in, I bought this, I memorized this, therefore I am true fan and you are not. And as a black nerd, I've been in a lot of spaces where that's what it is. Oh, you're a tourist. You're not a real fan. You're not really into this stuff. So the Dream Frontier is an answer to that. Long answer, but that's what I got.
Since you brought up being a black nerd, how important is it for black nerds to have a space for their own, like our own space, our own cons, our own communities? How important is that to you?
So I think we need both. So because here's what happens. If I'm a black nerd and I know I'm a black nerd, I'm going to show up in a black nerd space. But if I'm a young kid that doesn't know that I can identify as that, I'm not going to be deep enough in that identity to know that I can go find that space for myself. So I think there needs to be a large presence and proliferation of black nerds, black nerddom, black fandom in every space where nerds are. If nerds are there, black nerds need to be there. Because then, people that are trying to find themselves in that space will look and go, there are people that are like me here, I'm welcome here, I'm going to show up here. And then once they get to that space, if they decide, I want to go hang out with my people for a little bit, I want to be in a space that's free of some of the discriminatory air that this hobby tends to come with. I need to come up for air for a little bit. Then we get to go to our kind of like our own spaces. So I think it's both. You need both, but both of them are extremely important because we know how black people drive culture. We know how black creativity builds empires. And every black nerd that you shut off, that's a source of light and creativity that isn't being watered. That's an opportunity for a creator that is disappearing, that we're losing. And we got to keep that because I think that's the way forward. Stories are how we change the world.
The Forbes 30 under 30, how was that announcement?
So I felt really good because one of my heroes I look up to is Donald Glover. And Donald Glover was on the Forbes 30 under 30 when he was 27. So I really, really wanted to be on the list, right? But the funny part is nobody told me that I was on the list. Like Forbes didn't reach out to me or like send me in congratulations or anything. I started getting text messages like, hey, great job. And I said, who? Send me the link. No one told me a thing. So I'm happy about it. But I also think that in many ways the Forbes 30 under 30 and my obsession with getting there was rooted in this idea that I had in the back of my head that if I didn't get it done and accomplish it before I was 25, then my life was basically over. That if I didn't do it, if I wasn't like the first, the youngest black, that like none of my accomplishments matter. And it led to me kind of speed running a lot of parts of my life where I should have just been breathing easy and being grateful for where I was and enjoying the space that I was in. So I'm trying to reconcile both right now. I got a lot of stories to tell. I got a lot of stuff I want to make. I'm also trying to enjoy where I'm at and acknowledge that things come with time.
Okay. So, given the current political climate and given the platform that you primarily produce your content on, what is your plan for if TikTok is banned in the United States?
Trying to get me in trouble. I think so. I mean, full disclaimer. Like TikTok's my biggest audience, and also I was one of the creators that was selected by TikTok to go to Capitol Hill in order to talk to like local representatives, Congress people. I'll put it to you like this: whether it's TikTok or anything else, I care about technology and I care about safety. Remember, my degree's in strategic communications. I do a lot of exploration around how media consumption and media content impacts people. If someone were to say to me, Tony, we have a solution to the ways that young people are being radicalized, othered, and negatively influenced at scale via social media platforms, I would go, do it, please. And I don't care if it hits me in the pockets. I don't care if I lose money from it. I literally don't care if it's going to help them. Do it. I don't think a TikTok ban does that. That's the place that kind of promotes beef with me. I think anything that we are criticizing TikTok for, it's certainly not an app that's above criticism. Anything that we are criticizing it for are things that we can criticize multiple other platforms for, and it feels like if you cut your arm and someone took a Band-Aid and they put it on the other arm, you're like, we're hurting over here. The places where ship needs to happen are over here. And I want people to focus on that. I don't feel like banning TikTok particularly does anything, right? It's like, do I want it to get banned? No. I like for it to say, I've seen it be a voice for people who haven't been able to build audiences traditionally, and I do think there's something magical about the community there. All communities there, but especially the ones that I've been able to build. But I don't think it solves the problem that we are being told it solves. That's my feeling about it.
We have time for one more question.
Okay. Did you all have anything? I know you chilling. Okay. I got you.
So how did your TED Talk come about, and have you noticed any impacts from it?
Well, I think that talk has kind of become my calling card. People know it. I think it's created a lot of doors and opportunities for me to go talk. And the funny part is, it was a TEDx talk. I haven't done my Big Daddy TED Talk yet. So I'm hoping I get that phone call soon. But I think that talk kind of put me on the map in a variety of ways. It was kind of my way of letting people know who I am and what I stand for. And even now, it's people like, oh, tell me more about your organization. Tell me about, watch the TED Talk. And then come hang out with me, and I'll answer any additional questions that you have. But it's a great way of introducing people to me, my story, and my work. And at the time, I hadn't even started writing Rudo yet. Commons is still very much in like a conceptual phase. So it's beautiful to see how much I've grown since then.